All right. Welcome back to the podcast, y'all. I'm your host, Trina, and you are listening to Let's Just Enjoy This. And today we have a special guest with us, my bestie, Sky. Sky,
Hello.
say hello.
Hello. How's it going?
I was on Sky's podcast like a month ago.
Yeah.
Because Sky has a podcast, everybody. You should check it out. We'll link it down below for you guys. Don't worry about it. But today we're going to talk about Sky's story. He was able to ask me mine, and now we're gonna talk about him because he's gone through quite the transformation recently, and it's extremely inspiring. And you also had, in my opinion, you had one of those positions that people dream of having, and you left it. So
Yeah.
I wanna dive into that.
Okay.
Understand your backstory so you can tell everybody kind of how you started, how you got there.
Okay.
How you got to Austin. We're in
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, y'all. He's coming from California.
Yes, one of those California guys that decided to move here.
But
I came before
Yes.
the wave came. So
Yes, exactly. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But to start us out, Sky, how about you just give us a little background on your backstory and how you got to Austin, and then into your career into now.
yeah, and I'm definitely an open book. So I appreciate being on this podcast. I'd love to help support my friends, since you've been on mine and supporting me. So and it's crazy to kind of tell my story. I haven't really done it in this capacity, but I appreciate you seeing it from a lens to where you think it's inspirational. So I thank you for that. But yeah, so I'll start out by saying I grew up in Florida. I lived in Atlanta for 8 years, LA for 3, San Diego for 3, and now Austin for, I think, 6 years. And, I moved around I'm 44. So I moved around a lot in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And I did it, people kind of saw it through a lens where I was doing it for fun, and those are amazing, cool cities. I definitely wasn't the cold weather guy, but I did it for I was paying attention to my intuition, to signs, and ultimately to level up my career.
Yeah.
But why I say that is because it came with a lot of sacrifice. I missed out on a lot of family and friends events.
Yeah.
I had to reset my friend group every city.
That's hard.
And a lot of these, specifically LA and San Diego, I didn't have a base, a foundation of friends.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, but I knew who I was, and I knew I'm a super social guy. I knew I had a tremendous work ethic, and I knew I was going to do what it takes to get where I needed to go.
Yeah.
So all through that journey, as far as where I'm doing now, so I just hit a decade doing healthcare staffing.
Wow.
Yeah. And so from the ground up, never done it before. And then I had my first company take a risk on me not having previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the annoying part that I see more often in people trying to change jobs or change careers is that unfortunately there's an annoying algorithm with that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to either have previous experience or you have to have a title.
Yep.
And a lot of companies don't see it being transferable, which I don't understand why.
Yeah.
But I had a company that was a startup and took, a leap of faith on me. And
why do you think they took a leap of faith on you?
Well, because it came with my customer service experience. Okay. I spent 15 years prior to that in retail and retail management. And so I guess in my interview, me and my other day one girl, she didn't have a previous experience either. And they just saw the sales and the customer aspect and saw it being transferable.
Right.
And so we were able to make that jump and make it happen and climb to the top. And the other thing about that is that they saw the success in hiring people that didn't have the exact same title because they're moldable. They're able to, be molded into what you need them to be, and they'll have so much more of appreciation for it, which I did. And then, 10 years later, I was, managing a team. And then I left. I was being poached by a company for a year, and they wanted me to be a senior vice president. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. Not because of me, but because of just a company that was bait and switching and just didn't have a lot of values that I admired or instilled in myself when I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to work for a company. And so I left, spent some time there, but obviously left that. But yeah, I definitely climbed the ladder and
Yeah.
climbed these ladders of titles and pay and etc. But I think ultimately through that, I found what I liked and what I didn't like and what's important to me and what I want to continue to do as I have a career and also get older.
Yeah,
So,
that's really awesome. I wanted to take a small pause and do a little icebreaker.
oh, okay. I love
Yeah,
icebreakers.
I came up with two different topics for icebreakers, but I think for you, I'm just going to pick it for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to call this story roulette,
Okay. Let's go. Let's go, baby.
and I'm going to give you a word or a phrase,
Okay.
and then whatever I say, pop up a story into your head,
Ooh,
and you
okay.
have to tell us this story.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's go. I'm here. Open book.
Okay, I don't have my list in front of me, but
Okay.
I have one in my head that I think will be a good one for you. All right,
What is
ready?
it? I'm ready.
Espresso martini.
Espresso martini. Oh my gosh. Espresso martini. I haven't got, honestly, this was very like current in my life. I
Okay.
never got exposed to espresso martinis until I feel like Austin,
Yeah,
honestly.
I feel like they're newer. It seems like
Yeah.
it's like a new trend. It used to be the Red Bull vodka back in the day.
Yeah.
Now
I'm
it's
not
the
a big shot
espresso.
guy, but it was a nice balance to having a shot but tasting good.
Yeah,
And now I see like all these these bros like ordering
yeah,
tons of espresso martinis and
yeah,
just having them. But I feel like it's an Austin thing for me.
yeah,
It just reminds me of like your wife
yeah,
and the group of girls that we, all hang out with
yeah,
friends, and
yeah.
then, it's just a quick pick me up. So I'm like almost like a one and done on those though.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those you have it the beginning of the night
Yes.
and you're like, all right, it's like
Or to pick
after
you up.
dinner,
Yeah.
like the after dinner you get your espresso martini and then you sail into the evening, but not a more than
It's not
one
a full ride.
because you're gonna be in bed like
Yes.
just
And I've
pounding.
had many of those before with Red Bull vodkas. So,
Oh my gosh. I can't even that smell. I will never.
oh, I still love sugar-free Red Bulls. That's probably
I
one
do
of the
like
things
Red
that's
Bull.
like terrible.
I
And they
don't like
came
the
out with
sugar
like a
free.
bunch of new
They
flavors.
do. They have some good
So
ones. There's like
good.
grape and I don't even
Ah,
know the other flavors, but they're really good.
apricot, watermelon. And
Yes.
it's like not good for you, but that's like my little guilty vice.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so thank you for doing that with
Yeah,
me.
you're welcome.
Um, I want to talk about you were wait, what was the highest title you held? Was a VP
Senior
or a
vice
senior
president.
VP?
Yeah.
You were a senior vice president of a company.
Mm-hmm.
You were,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I feel like, a very good amount of people's dream job. You were in there doing that job, and for some reason, there was something in you that was like, you know what, this isn't it.
Yeah.
I don't really want to climb the corporate ladder
Yeah.
anymore. And something drew you into doing something different. Can you kind of explain to us what drew you, like when you kind of figured that out and when you were like, I'm gonna switch this shit up.
Yeah. It wasn't an easy choice for sure.
Yeah.
I said that it was being poached for a year with this company.
Hmm.
Great, base pay, great commission, all the things. But I would say that getting older in age kind of puts you in that position of like, okay, you know, there's certain things you'll tolerate and there's certain things you won't,
Yeah.
and I am definitely a very outspoken person, and I will not just be a person that just head nods and just rides the wave. Like if you see something, say something, and that's just who I am to the core.
Oh yeah.
And I just learned through 15 years. I mean, I've been working since I was 15, so I've been working a ton. I only took one break, and that was in high school. I was just allowed to just be a senior. After that, it was back to the grind. So, I mean, overtime, weekends, nights, the whole thing. So I've seen it all as far as, work is related. And I just kind of built up these boundaries of like, I've been taken advantage before.
Yeah.
I've put in so much time and not seen the benefits of that.
Yeah.
I've been, kind of tossed and turned in the, workspace
Hmm.
and seen, again, what I would tolerate or not. And so when I got to that point, I was just like, I'm tired of sometimes these titles don't equal what's the worth.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm making more money and I have this, but like
You even have
at
the
what at
flexibility
what
as well.
cost?
Like because you were working
At
remote sometimes, and
yeah.
you had the flexibility. You could go to a coffee shop on a Friday
Yep.
and work and hang.
Flexibility, all the things. It was just, yeah, there was nothing. I mean, honestly, someone could have said, "Oh, that's a dream job,"
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it was tearing me up inside, and I had to listen to my intuition. I was coming home, defeated, unhappy, and not myself. It was eating up my personality
Yeah.
and ultimately taking away everything that I love to do outside of work.
Yeah. Like you didn't have the energy or the desire to really go and do all of
No, I
the fun
wasn't
with guys.
social. I wasn't active. I wasn't even, honestly, it was like taking away from me in my new relationship with now my husband.
Hmm.
And he just saw, oh, this is just so terrible for you, you
Yeah.
know? And so that was a lightning bulb moment for me. We went and um, got engaged and we went to Paris, took a break, the holidays. I got engaged. And while I was in Paris, it was going to be the beginning of the new year. That is when I decided to have this conversation with my fiance and say, I am unhappy and I'm just not a person just to stick in and live
Yeah.
in an unhappy
And
space.
you were unhappy because of your career.
I was unhappy because of my career
Yeah.
and everything that it kind of and it was more of a startup division. So I knew the work it would take and I knew and again, I'm not shy of hard work.
Yeah.
I work very hard, my entire life. I think it came down to working again, sometimes and I asked a lot of questions. I went on numerous rounds of interviews. I had to do a whole Shark Tank PowerPoint presentation
Damn.
and I got it. But sometimes when you're sitting in that seat, I think the unfortunate thing is that you don't get to ask all the questions about the company.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, want the job, get the job, and you're all the shiny, dangling carrots in front of you, and you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, okay, okay. But then when you get there and you see what's behind the curtain, you're like,
Oh boy.
oh damn.
Yeah.
And
Was
so that
it was quick too. Like you started before you said, yes, I will do this. Was there any red flags or in your head you were like, yo, this is it?
No, that's the thing. I should have honestly listened to my intuition more.
Mm.
There were definitely signs, and there were definitely, yeah, yellow to red flags. It was a few month process, and I don't have try not to have any regrets in life, but
Yeah.
man, I am so annoyed at myself for not paying attention to
Yeah.
myself a lot earlier
Yeah.
because it was there. It
Yeah.
literally was
And
there.
now you know.
Now I know.
Like, don't mess with this. The intuition's there. It's telling you, hey,
Yeah.
you could do this, but
Well, I've done so much work now more recently to understand the signs and the
yeah.
intuition and my higher self and talking with friends and knowing what makes me feel good and not feel good
Yeah.
and allowing it to let go. Sometimes I found myself like trying to put a square in a round hole,
Yep.
and it was like no and no, we went round and round, and of course I showed up. My experience speaks for itself. My resume's there, all the things that they would want a candidate for, but it was kind of like pushing me away from that. But of course, it's like, if you want it, we can make this happen, but you might have some guilt toward the good thing is that I always look at everything with a silver lining,
Yeah.
and it paid its course there. For me to do other things that I'm doing now. So there's always a benefit to it, so.
Yeah. So you talked to Jason. You said, I'm not happy. I need a new job. I need to do something else. Why did you decide to go the path you went on? And then can you kind of tell everybody kind of what that new path is?
Yeah, I mean, for him, Jason comes from a place of like stability, kind of not necessarily old work mindset, but it's a good job. It's a good, a good job. It's a good pay. It's all the things, all this and all that. Like, why you work so, it's everything you wanted. Why you work so hard for this, kind of, why not? But what he did see was, a one-on-one experience of how it was affecting me, which I think is a big, sort of message that you don't see what's happening behind closed doors. And they're like, oh, this person has this or has that, or the wealth or the abundance or the title or the money, and there's always a sacrifice. I've learned that as well. There's always an exchange. And so once he saw that and saw how I was trying to make it work, and, I don't just give up to give up. I mean, that, there has to be a way and an exit plan and a thought through and all that sort of stuff. And so once he's like, I'm on board if this is what you want, we made it happen. And again, I've never have ever been laid off on a job, but I decided after the new year, I was like, new year, new me. I'm going to come to the table and tell them, how I'm feeling and thinking. And I did. And they were like, wait, what? And they're like, no, we invested, so much time and, attention and money and all the things invested. We're going to make this work.
Yeah.
We'll come to find that was a Friday conversation. Come Monday, which I didn't know at the time, but I knew things were kind of weird in the office with a different division. They were planning on doing, before the layoffs got big layoff wave, they were planning to do a big layoff in October. So all they did do is add me to the list and said, okay, there's, I was the highest pay, one of the higher paying ones, newly hired. I mean, I had all the sort of like reasons why they would do that. And so that was a little bit of a take back for me because I'd never been laid off. Okay, unemployment, how does that work? And then I took 2 months off to find what I was going to do next. And basically 1 month putting my eggs in different baskets that weren't related to recruiting and healthcare. Because of course you kind of come off with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. Like, I'm doing that again. After you pulled me away from what I was doing and poached me and all that sort of stuff. But nothing was moving for me. And then so I spent another month, because unemployment money is not good, y'all. It is not good. Not. So the check isn't checking. And the other thing too, what I didn't realize, that coming from California, they're an employee state, where Texas, they don't have to give you an employment if they want. Yeah. So there's a whole, it's not as legally, like you think, but needless to say, the last month I was like, okay, let me go back to seeing what recruiting space is like in healthcare. I got 4 offers in 1 week.
Damn.
Yeah. And one of the offers was, I was like, what is the best company for my, space?
Yeah.
I was, doing travel nursing at the time, and it popped up this company, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to DM the CEO and tell him who I am and what I'm interested in their company. Ended up multiple interviews with them, got the offer, but the offer was a little bit very low base, higher commission. And I just didn't know if I was in that space to consider that with the other offers. And so I was sitting on an airplane with this girl randomly before I decided to quit or think or anything about that. And we just talked about what we were doing. I would say, me, I talk to everybody, and everything's a stepping stone if you
Yep.
just engage and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up giving me a business card to then the company that I ended up working for. It was in my
Whoa.
catch-all. And after a month and a half, I was like, you know what? I kept saying it. I kept seeing it. And I was like, let me give this person a call.
Yeah.
And she ended up carrying the, resume over to the company that I ended up taking the offer with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
Random airplane.
and she would random airplane. I think we're going to Denver or something. And she worked in a different division. She worked in the IT side.
Okay.
They had a healthcare side.
Got it.
And she helped facilitate that. And that was the one I went with. Yeah. Because there was a numerous amounts of things, and there was a reason behind that it all.
Yep.
But I also decided, the title wasn't for me anymore. Having that additional stress, and the money's good, but I was going to say I'm going to find a way to live more of a purposeful life.
Yeah.
And not with all the materialistic things that I think, because to me, I'm looking at life now like, not in a sad way, but this is all borrowed. This is all temporary. So it's like I'd rather be here with a happy heart and live life, presently, than working for ideally someone else's dream.
Yeah. And you're just working. You're buying random things, and then you're like, I don't even really care about that.
Right. It's not your passion.
Yeah.
It's not your company. It's not your dream.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you did that, but then you switched again, right?
No. So then I was working for them for ideally a year.
Okay.
And again, and I'm not a job hopper. So my resume is 8 years, 7 years, 8 years. And then the 2 short stints that I had 5 months and then 1 year. And so I'm not, I make moves, but not like just I don't operate like that. So after hitting my 1 year at this company, and they now that I'm looking at it backwards, because it all connects backwards.
Yeah.
That job was to help me stay above water. Mm-hmm. I was planning a wedding, getting married, and some other life events happened. A very close aunt of mine passed away. My sister had 2 twins. I went on my honeymoon, had my wedding. My dad passed away. So it was a position that, obviously paid me, and kept the lights on and everything afloat. Yeah. But it also wasn't so stressful. And I didn't need any additional work stress when I had all those things going on. I didn't know that at the time. But it did play its course for me. But again, when you get into the business, and towards the end of it, literally a week after I hit my 1 year, I was like trying to make money happen and pivot and do all these things it was sort of a, startup in a sense. There was only another recruiter and a half. Yeah. And I decided, when I was giving all the great business ideas and helping them, trying to, again, make more money so I can make more money for myself, and being experience in the industry for so long. But again, it wasn't, either resonating, I wasn't being heard, hitting my head against the wall. And that's when I decided to, I'm kind of in that same space again. And when I get into this space, because it's not normally who I am or my characteristic, I'm now paying attention to saying, okay, the universe is aggravating me to then get uncomfortable or things not to work out, so then I can see outside of that. Maybe my time here is done. And literally that was it. Everything that happened after my honeymoon, my dad passed away. And then it was just, there was nothing left on the table for me to be at this place for. Yeah. And then I was reached out to, I kind of said this like intention, whatever's for me, please make it show up for me very clearly, very loudly. And then whatever isn't for me, please just take it away. Yeah. And so then I was introduced, or someone reached out to me. I did ignored it because I wasn't in that headspace. I was like, wait a minute, let me go back to the things that I was ignoring. ends up being a company out in Australia that helps recruiters start their own agency.
Wow.
And then I was paying attention to the signs, and then I was receiving business. People were, one person hit me up on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, you're can we cuss? Just a badass
Let's go.
recruiter, and we're looking for someone to help subcontract these needs." And then then another person reached out, which then I was like, you know what? I basically am an account manager. I basically can do business development. I'm a recruiter. I've been a manager. I've been a boss. Maybe it's time I have my own,
Yeah.
start my own agency.
Let's
And
go.
so I did. I followed, took the risk, made the jump with no ideal plan and option, putting my, of course I did my research. I've talked to these people and all the things, and it just made sense business wise. And so that's where I made it happen. And it's about to, launch in a few weeks. And I'm so happy ever since quitting my job, and other things came into my life, working on my podcasts, kind of gotten into this magical space with, connecting with clarity, through dowsing rods. And then I partnered with a part-time job with this cool platform called a Wikipedia. So it helps people that are like-minded find ways of holistic healing through practitioners that are partners with this platform. So
that's really cool. So it's essentially kind of like we could call it like an Amazon. Like it's like there's a platform, and then businesses can post their stuff on it, kind of
well,
thing.
yeah, sort of in a way. So members are free, and then but the partners basically pay a membership fee to have access to these people that are already in this headspace of holistic healing. And there's like literally hundreds of these modalities that of interest.
Yeah.
And so they bring their business to this platform, and they help them execute these online virtual sessions.
Okay.
So you keep the money, you own your business, but it's just access to that.
Yeah.
Videos, reading materials, online classes. Like I'm actually doing my first one as like a curious member next Wednesday on like channeling to your higher self. So I'm excited for that.
So like as a customer, I could go on there and say, I'm looking for this one thing. And then there's just like, you're just like shopping different companies.
Shopping just practitioners, that have have this ability. So it's like, I don't know, like Reiki, animal Reiki, feng shui, numerology, astrology, yoga, breath work, meditation. I mean, there's stuff I'm even learning about it. But what's cool are these people already have a platform. They already have, either, very experienced or newly experienced. So they're just working on their craft, and they have great testimonials, and they want to share this with an audience. So you can just find like, hey, if I really want to find, like, I struggle with meditation. So I'm finding and linking up with someone that is really good at meditation.
That's really awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay. So this brings me to another topic I like to talk about, which is tools.
Okay.
And so you said a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So much.
Sorry.
No, this is amazing. So much just changed in like a small moment of your life. And I want to kind of understand what tools you used to kind of help you find these things. Like you are starting this company, but did the company that reached out to you, did they give you a website? Did they do that? Or did you have to do certain things yourself? And like, did you have to like open up your own LLC?
Mm-hmm.
How did you know how to do that? Like stuff like that. So can you kind of walk through some of the tools and stuff that you used, and how you stumbled upon this other company that you're working with, and stuff like that?
Yeah, honestly, I'd probably say my first tool, and I didn't even know if this is a tool, but I'm going to just say it is to me, was writing things on a Post-it note, and just affirmations, things that were positive that I heard to like remember, words of encouragement, quotes, etc. and just taping them to where I, kind
Somewhere
of
you'd
hang
see
out,
them.
which then turned into journaling. I am not a writer, I am not a reader, but I was using that to express gratitude, journaling manifestations, which is huge for me. And then led into YouTube, certain people that I follow where I write down, things that are important in that month to remember to
Yep.
help you out. And then as far as so that's kind of what I do personally.
Yeah.
As far as business goes, so when I little sidebar, when I was going through the struggles with the VP position, I was just listening to the motivational people that I follow on YouTube,
Yep.
and I got a commercial, and it was this whole lead generation business. So I was like, heck, sounds good. This is something I could do on the side. This is my way out. This is my transition, and bought into a whole program there, and which helped LLC, tax people, the whole get the business up and running.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that was missing is my passion for it.
Yeah.
I was attracted to having the business side of it, but I wasn't passionate about the lead generation side.
Yeah.
Fast forward, long story short, nothing really worked out there.
Okay.
But I ultimately was able to, I had this business,
Yeah.
which now I know was the connection to the business that was meant for me,
Yeah.
and having my own perm staffing agency.
Yeah.
And I was just able to take all of that and build it into what I have now. And I think I shared with you, which was even crazier before even months of deciding to leave, is that I was sitting on this domain for a while, which is now, just weird buying a domain because of why, I don't know. It was one of those things that I just received and I said, do it. And ends up being my business company's name, which is Sky's the Limit Staffing, which is like play off my name and obviously resonates for clients and candidates. But yeah. And then so all of that came into play. The best thing about the agent company that I'm working for out in Australia is their business model is amazing. They do all of the heavy lifting, quote, for you.
Yeah.
So provide logo, branding, graphics, website design, a LinkedIn, a recruiter, which is a very expensive license to have. I had all the, LLC and all the business and bank accounts and all that sort of stuff. So they just help tie it in. Contract, legal,
Wow.
the stuff that is very, very expensive. They
Yeah.
help do that, and they're in the Forbes magazines. They're super successful over there. They've helped I think 50 plus people have their own agencies out in Australia. I'm one of one here in the United States, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And they said they will have boots on the ground here, and they chose Austin to do it by the end of the year, beginning of this new year. So I'm like, okay, I'll be a guinea pig. This makes sense for me. The timing is right. Let's go. And of course, it's not, there's some, not, hurdles along the way that we're figuring out from Australia from the US, but ultimately it's there, and it's ready to go. And I actually had business pre them, and I was still working on that. And I signed my first contract of my own the beginning of this week. And then so once it all came about, under Sky's the Limit Staffing, I'm staffing quite a few long-term care skilled nursing facilities in the around the North Dallas area. And so it's just crazy again when you open the door, all the things that flood in. And like once I signed the contract, the next day I was recruiting on it, and I've already submitted 2 candidates to the need that are very highly experienced and potentially could be a hire. So that was a turnaround in 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. So can you give us a timeline of I quit my job and now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I quit my job the end of March. So the timeline, it happened really quickly. I quit my job in the end of March. I started the process of starting my own agency. I, found again, I got more serious. I was wrapping up season 1 of Keeping Austin Queer.
Mm-hmm.
Started season 2,
Yep.
which I never thought would ever happen, not being a personal podcaster or
Mm-hmm.
having
Mm-hmm.
all of this nice setup that you have and the tech side of it. But I did it. I managed. But what else happened? Wikipedia came to me, and I was one of the first global talent scout for them. So one of the first through them, and um, Sky Michael's Dowsing Download. So I got found a way to get connected with that, and that's the doors were opening, the flood was happening, and this was all within, I would say, the very next week
It's
after me quitting, and then it was just building off of this
it's
momentum.
just it's insane, and it's also crazy because a lot of the stuff that is in my head and what I try to teach is if you want something, like go find a way to get it. You got to start, you got to move. But in your situation, it's almost like you submitted to the cause
Yeah,
and you were like,
surrendered.
yeah, you were like, just take the wheel, lead me. Where am
Hmm.
I supposed to go? Just bring it to me. And that's exactly what happened. And
That's exactly what
it
happened.
happened fast.
Yes.
And you were just hopping on like, you know what, maybe let's just see
Yeah.
what this leads to. And here we are.
Yeah. I think, like I said this before, I'm a big believer that everything you want is on the other side of fear, and fear drives us all.
Hmm.
It's the biggest thing that keeps us stuck and keeps us not doing or achieving what we want to do. And I'm still struggling with that,
Yeah.
like I'm sort of a perfectionist, but I'm a very like get it all done in a sense.
Yeah.
So, you have that imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And it's just like I put that all on, I control alt delete and put that all on override in my
Yes.
head.
Yes.
And I surrendered and I said, show me the way. And I'm digging deep into faith and like, staying strong, and
Hmm.
it's so easy to wake up and go, back or backwards.
Yeah.
Um, but everything is like beautifully unfolding,
Hmm.
and I'm just continuing to dig deep.
You're just taking the ride.
Yeah. And I just knew it would, I just felt it. I just knew it would happen. And
Yeah.
again, in everything that I am focused on, it sounds honestly like a lot, but the thing about it is, it's everything that came to me at a time that just felt right. And it's all positive.
Yep.
Everything I'm doing is positive,
Hmm.
and it's helping others and, helping me as far as, having a living.
Yeah. Having a living, having different passions. You've got your podcast, you've got all the things that you're doing,
Hmm.
and none of them are things that can potentially take up, 40 hours of your week. It's
No.
like you're making time to do all of the things
Hmm.
and you're getting it all done and you're staying consistent on all of them.
Yeah, it's helped me stay consistent on
Yeah.
all of them, honestly. And even honestly getting back to being more healthier.
Yeah.
I made a commitment to drink less and not drink at all since February. My husband started in January, a little slower start. And then which has helped me to stay in the game, to stay more positive, to stay more present.
Yeah.
I got more active. I love tennis, and I've been playing tennis a lot more,
Hmm.
and just being in that space to
Yeah.
like continue to drive the vehicle.
Yeah. You are doing so many things that are causing you to be present. And I think that's really big in your life right now is, I mean, obviously when you're playing tennis, you have to be present.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about emails and stuff,
No.
balls flying at your head.
Or
And
getting hurt.
yeah, exactly. And then the podcast and then all the other stuff that you've got going on. It's all stuff that is requiring you to be here and now in those moments. And I think that's really beautiful because we've done the party life, which is still fun.
Yeah. And
I
again,
love to go out and have a drink and dance and stuff, but it's almost like an escape, not a this is my life.
yeah.
And you're figuring that out. And then with the wine stuff, it's fun because now you're trying non-alcs
Yeah.
that still bring you joy and it's fun and
Oh my
exciting and
gosh,
you're
we have
trying all this new stuff.
yeah. I found a way, here's the thing. I found a way to make things more fun.
Yeah.
And again, recharge my happiness and bring me joy. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes, you know, it is a thought, and it is things that you have to work on and do, because it's easy for us to go in default mode, which is typically negative,
Mhm.
and what am I doing, and you go down this wormhole.
Yeah.
But it's a choice. Everything we do is a choice. It's waking up, deciding how you are waking up to feel
Yes.
is a choice. And so I take that very to heart now.
Yeah.
And again, there's not to say that there are hard days,
Right.
but everything again, and I even said that with deciding to do a part-time job. I was like, I am not going to get a job unless a part-time job or anything, or if I'm not going to do anything at this point in my life that I am not happy with,
Yeah.
brings me joy, or I'm not bought into or helping others.
Yeah.
That is a choice for me. And that's how I'm, involved with the things that I'm doing. They all have that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Man, that is just awesome. Sky, I'm just so proud of you.
oh, thank you. I mean, I think something that I think is important for people to know, and I struggle with this is celebrating the small wins.
Yeah.
And celebrating those moments in each way. You kind of do a
Mhm.
little cheer for yourself. But for me, I just cheer and then I move on to the next.
Yeah.
But those moments matter,
Yeah, they're big.
and relying, something that I've learned through, within what is it now? Has it been a month? I don't even know. There's times not existent
It's
also,
just
but
gone
also when
crazy.
you're in this like fast lane. Real quick thing, I think another thing I heard in that is happening to me is that I stopped focusing on the grind.
Yeah.
I lived in this grind,
Mhm.
chase the title, chase the money, chase this lifestyle, chase all that. And I got more aligned.
Yeah.
And that was the magical part for me. Everything that I'm doing had
Mhm.
a bigger purpose than myself, but it was also work that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so it'll keep fueling you. It'll keep showing up for you because it's what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
and it's positive,
It's positive. Something with like drinking is obviously the repercussions of this is going to be really fun tonight, but then
Yeah,
tomorrow I'm going to feel it, and maybe even the next day.
right.
But now it's like you're living your day fulfilled, and then you're going to bed fulfilled. You're waking back up the next day
Yeah,
like, let's fucking go. What are we
yeah,
going to do today?
right.
And there's just so much positive energy and drive into everything that you're doing, and it just makes it easy. I know, like, I'm obviously trying to do the same thing with my life. I'm trying to go to bed positive, wake up positive, do the gratitude, all the
Hmm.
things, the reflections. But I know every now and then somebody, like, you wake up and then like you spill your coffee on the ground or something,
Yeah,
and then to somebody that's like today's gonna be a bad day,
yeah.
and it's just like they put
So
that
easy.
marker
Yeah,
on the whole day because there's like one obstacle, instead of just being like, oh, this just is like a thing. This is
yeah.
just a little roadblock. Let's just get through it, and I'm still gonna have a good day, you
Right.
know. And I feel like that's where you are now. Like even when the fear sets in and the imposter syndrome sets in, you're still like, that's just a moment. I'm gonna deal with this moment, and then I'm gonna just keep on trucking forward.
Well, there was a Instagram video that I watched that I felt like was super powerful that I actually continue to watch.
Yeah.
And this guy said that, okay, you spilled the coffee. That is literally 1 minute
Yeah.
of your day of how many minutes in 24 hours.
Yes.
Okay, so feel the feels. Be upset, do what you want to do, laugh, cry, whatever, how you choose to feel about that emotion.
Yeah.
But then that's it. That is it.
Yeah.
You have so much more to go on and move forward with. Why are you allowing that 1 minute
Yeah.
out of all the minutes in a day to control you? You
Yeah.
know, and again, a feeling is a choice. You choose how to feel, you choose how to react,
Yeah.
and you choose how to move through life.
Yeah.
So I think it's being mindful in that. And again, it's not easy. I was going to go back to say that, thankfully my husband is so sweet and kind and gives me these gentle reminders
Yeah.
that I used to, through, it's been definitely a few months about the drinking thing. And again, we'll find a wedding, a birthday, certain things, obviously there's no rules and have that
Yeah.
celebration. But I was finding myself over explaining myself to everyone.
Mm.
And he said, why?
Yeah.
Why? He goes, the simple answer is, it was me saying, well, here's why I'm not drinking and why. But he's just like, it makes you feel better without it. It makes you feel better
Yeah.
and happier and motivated and all those things. And again, I always say, I'm 44, and I started like socially drinking, never had an issue with drinking. My dad was an alcoholic. It burned me and never did anything like that. But I was socially drinking, and you just kind of, a brunch turns into this and turns into that, and you know how it goes. But I never gave my break since, I said, junior year in high school, other than COVID or other than flu, other than cold. And I think it's a common thing that we all go through.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't need alcohol to amplify my personality, but it was just what you do when,
Yeah.
work and whatever. And so finding a way to, why do I have to explain myself?
Yeah.
I don't. I just am choosing this because we all have to evolve,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think another thing too, with you that I think is crazy is during all of this stuff that's gone on in your last 5 months,
speed
we'll say,
rail.
speed rail, you lost two very important people to you,
Yeah.
and you didn't sink. Like you took your time that you needed.
Right.
You still obviously have your moments, but at the end of the day, you're still choosing to put you in the driver's seat of your life,
Yeah.
and you're choosing how you want to navigate that.
Yeah. My best friend has said this to me numerous amounts of times, and I don't think I've ever really allowed it to soak in and click in. But he comes from, and he's been honest, and my husband, they come from more of a privileged background than I.
Yeah.
And there's some people that ride on a woe is me story. And I always say, baby girl, I've got a CVS receipt. If you want to go toe to toe on some, shit to be upset and angry and defeated and, depressed and whatever about, um, you know, and just for an example, just a short, my mom had me at 16 years old. I was the oldest of four. My dad was an alcoholic, love him, but that was a, story of ours, and poor. And my brother then had mental health and disability, and they've been in and out of jail for numerous amounts of years. Um, clearly I had to work and pay for myself and do all this, no hand me outs in anything, and kind of figuring out how to, make that happen for yourself. But he always said, man, I'm so proud of you that you have so much to, honestly, when I hear people, bitch or complain or whatever they're talking about, it's so literally minute to the things that you had to carry and go through your life. And you, for some reason, always choose or show up, so happy, so smiley, so positive, and willing to help others and do what it takes. And I honestly don't know how or why. I just think it's just who I am in my DNA. And again, I think it's just comes down to making it a choice.
Yeah.
And I don't allow those things to be my story, although it is my past. But I don't allow it to be a component in the vehicle that I'm driving for myself in my future.
Yeah. That's beautifully said.
Yeah. I think it's something that I'm appreciative now. Looking back, I was so embarrassed about it growing up.
Yes.
And it's probably still now, to some degrees. But now I'm just like, screw that,
It's made you who you are now.
Yeah.
And look at you.
I have gratitude for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to close this out.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear you say any advice to anyone that's listening that is feeling like the flags are there and they need to make a change up, and they're kind of scared to do it. Any advice to kind of help them on their journey?
Yeah. I mean, that's big. I will say, I'm obviously going to only speak to what I know has worked for me, and I know what has helped others along the way. Just because you're stuck now, and just because you're maybe not feeling so great energetically, or depressed, or you got a lot going on, at the end of the day, I've been there. I really have. No food, figuring out the next, how you're going to pay your rent, showing up to work, all these sort of things. I mean, it's crazy, but you only have one life. your happiness is worth everything.
Yeah.
And you just got to find a way to get there, and find out who you are and what you like, and find those passions. If you love dogs, then figure out something to do with dogs. If you love coffee, then figure out to do something with coffee, and there's highs and lows of that. You can, not that a barista is anything, low, but you could be a barista, or you could be the coffee shop owner. There's levels to those things. And, once again, it's having a plan. It's not just making a wish and rubbing a lamp and then thinking manifestation is going to come show up on your door like an Amazon box. No, that's not it. There's work you have to put in. There's intention. There's listening. There's, praying, manifestations, and writing down things to work for that are going to get you an inch closer to that.
Yeah.
And again, not everything's a good situation. Every opportunity is a good opportunity. Yeah. You definitely have to do your due diligence. You have to do your research. The universe, God is testing you to see if you are going to go back to your own old ways, which a lot of people aren't aware of. Yeah. But I think it's staying steadfast in, the 1% that you decide to show up for yourself each and every day matters and adds up.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
all right, Sky, where can people find you at? You've got a lot of.
I'm honestly only on Instagram, so I haven't dug deep into all the other things, and I don't know if I will. But Sky's the Limit Staffing on Instagram, Facebook, obviously LinkedIn. I do permanent healthcare staffing and staffing throughout our community here in the Austin and as well as United States. Keeping Austin Queered is my podcast, and obviously Keeping Austin Queered on Instagram as well, Facebook. And then Sky Michael's Dowsing Downloads is on Instagram and Facebook as well, where I help you connect to clarity through the dowsing rods, which is an interesting experience.
Oh, yeah.
And a Wikipedia, again, on follow me on any of those platforms, and I will make it happen. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Sky.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate this conversation, and hopefully someone walks away with a little bit more inspiration to find or get closer to the path of alignment.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
A little fist for that one.
Fist for that one.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening. If you made it to the end, give us a thumbs up, a comment, a like. Go follow Sky on all 87 of his platforms. Check out his podcast. I'm on there more than once. So find me, listen to me.
Yes. Great content there.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening to Let's Just Enjoy This. Y'all have a great day.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
I don't even know. Definitely was probably at